One of the biggest reasons people fail in love is because they walk into it with unrealistic expectations, fantasies dressed us up as standards. We've been fed a script since childhood, movies, music, books. They tell us that love should be magical, effortless, perfect, that our soulmate is out there waiting to complete us, to anticipate our every need, to never disappoint us. So when real life doesn't match that fantasy, when our partner forgets a date, says the wrong thing, or has a bad day, we start to question everything. We ask, is this really love? But what we should be asking is, what did I expect love to be? Here's the truth: love is not a Disney movie. It's not always flowers, sunsets, and perfectly timed apologies. Sometimes love is patience. Sometimes it's showing up for someone when they're at their worst. Sometimes it's fighting through the silence, sitting in the discomfort, and choosing to stay when it would be easier to run. But too many people walk away when things get tough. Not because the relationship is wrong, but because their expectations were never rooted in reality to begin with. We expect our partners to know what we want without us saying it. We expect passion to stay hot without effort. We expect constant excitement, and when routine sets in, we panic. But let me tell you something: real love isn't constant highs, it's consistent commitment. It's built, not discovered. It's maintained, not magically sustained. If you expect love to always feel like the first date, you'll never make it to the second chapter. People want the rewards of love without the responsibility. They want the intimacy, but not the effort. But here's the deal: expecting perfection in love is a setup for disappointment. You're not perfect, neither is your partner. But if you can let go of the fantasy and embrace the real, raw, imperfect beauty of love, you give it room to grow. You stop needing it to look a certain way, and you start valuing how it makes you become a better person. Love isn't about finding someone who fits your dream. It's about building something together, day by day, choice by choice. And when you shift your expectations from fantasy to foundation, that's when love stops failing. That's when it starts thriving. Another massive reason most people fail in love is the lack of emotional intelligence. We've been taught how to solve math problems, how to write essays, chase careers, but almost no one taught us how to deal with our own emotions, let alone someone else's. And yet love is an emotional experience at its core. Without emotional intelligence, love becomes a battlefield of triggers, assumptions, and miscommunication. People think love should be easy if it's real. That's a lie. Love isn't easy, it's earned. And emotional intelligence is the currency. Most people don't even know what they're feeling. They're angry, but the truth is they're hurt. They're distant, but really they're scared. They're controlling, but what they actually feel is insecure. Without the ability to understand and regulate our own emotions, we react instead of respond. We attack instead of express. We shut down instead of open up. And when two people are emotionally blind to themselves, they become emotionally dangerous to each other. In relationships, things will go wrong. There will be missteps, misunderstandings, moments where one of you feels let down. That's inevitable. The question isn't whether challenges will come. The question is how you handle them when they do. Emotional intelligence means having the self-awareness to pause before reacting. The empathy to step into your partner's shoes, and the strength to take ownership without turning everything into a war of blame. It means you stop trying to win arguments and start trying to win connection. When people don't have emotional intelligence, they personalize everything. A bad mood becomes a personal attack. A request becomes criticism. A disagreement becomes rejection. They live in emotional defense mode where everything is a threat. And that kind of energy slowly poisons love. The relationship starts to feel like a battlefield instead of a partnership. And what once felt safe now feels exhausting. But when you start to build emotional intelligence, everything changes. You become more aware, more in control, more compassionate. You listen to understand, not just to reply. You don't run from your feelings, you own them. You learn to sit with discomfort instead of numbing it or projecting it. You create space, not pressure, and from that place you don't just survive love, you elevate it. The truth is, love isn't just about hearts and flowers. It's about how two people handle the storm together. If you can learn to manage your emotions, understand your partner's triggers, speak from truth instead of pain, that's when love becomes unshakable. That's when it becomes real. Relationship. Emotional intelligence is the quiet superpower that turns love from something fragile into something unbreakable. And the good news, it's not something you're born with. It's something you can build if you're willing to do the work. One of the deepest and most overlooked reasons people fail in love is fear of vulnerability. Let's be honest, love requires exposure. It demands that you show the parts of yourself you usually hide, the wounds, the insecurities, the truth behind the smile. And that's terrifying for most people. We live in a world that teaches us to perform strength, to keep our guards up, to protect our hearts at all costs. We're told that vulnerability is weakness, but in love, it's the opposite. Vulnerability is the price of admission to real connection, and too many people aren't willing to pay it. You can't build intimacy without risk. If you never let someone see the real you, the raw, unfiltered, unguarded you, then what they fall in love with isn't you. It's a version of you curated for safety. And here's the brutal truth: you can't feel truly loved if you're always hiding. You might feel admired, appreciated, even desired, but never fully seen. And when people don't feel seen, they eventually feel alone, even in a relationship. So what happens? People keep their walls up. They stay surface level. They make jokes instead of admitting they're scared. They get defensive instead of saying, "I'm hurting." They act like they don't care so they won't look desperate. And worst of all, they push love away the moment it starts to feel real, because real love threatens the illusion of control they've been clinging to. But here's the paradox: the very thing you're afraid will scare someone away, your truth, is the thing that can bring them closest. The moment you say, "I don't have it all figured out," is the moment someone else might say, "Me too." That's where trust is born. That's where real love starts. Vulnerability is the bridge. Without it, there's no emotional intimacy, just two people pretending to be fine while silently starving for connection. Look around, so many relationships break not because of lack of love, but because of fear. Fear of getting hurt, fear of being too much, fear of being not enough. But love will always require you to risk something. You don't get the reward without the risk. And if you're not willing to be vulnerable, then what you're doing isn't love, it's performance. Yes, vulnerability opens the door to pain, but it also opens the door to depth, passion, and real belonging. When you stop hiding, when you show up fully and say, "Here I am, scars and all," you give someone a chance to love you, not your mask. And isn't that what we're all craving at the end of the day? Not just to be loved, but to be loved for who we really are. So if you've been holding back, protecting yourself, keeping your walls high, I challenge you, lean in. Love is never safe, but that's what makes it sacred. The greatest relationships aren't built on perfection, they're built on truth. And truth only shows up when we stop running from vulnerability and start standing in it. Another major reason people fail in love is poor communication. And I'm not just talking about the ability to talk. I'm talking about the ability to connect through words, through silence, through presence. Most people think communication is about saying what you feel, but it's so much deeper than that. It's about saying what you mean in a way the other person can actually hear. It's about listening without trying to win. It's about learning how to fight for the relationship, not in it. And the truth is, most people never learned how to do that. We've been conditioned to react, not respond. We hear something we don't like and we shut down, lash out, or go silent. We listen to defend, not to understand. We speak to be right, not to be real. And the sad thing is, two people can love each other deeply and still destroy the relationship simply because they don't know how to talk to each other. Instead, they talk at each other. When you can't communicate with clarity and empathy, your love gets lost in translation. What you meant as a cry for closeness gets received as criticism. What you meant as honesty gets interpreted as attack. And soon, every conversation feels like a landmine and people stop feeling safe in their own relationship. Love cannot survive where communication is broken. You can't build a life together if you can't even get through a disagreement without turning it into a war. You need to be able to say, "This hurt me," without making your partner feel like the enemy. You need to be able to hear, "I need more from you," without shutting down in shame or blowing up in defensiveness. You need to learn how to hold space for hard conversations, because real love isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about knowing how to navigate it. And let's be honest, most of us were never taught this. We learned how to yell from our parents, how to blame from bad relationships, how to shut down from our own pain. That's not communication, that's survival. And love doesn't grow in survival mode. It grows when you're brave enough to unlearn those patterns. When you stop trying to win arguments and start trying to win each other back in every moment. When you ask questions instead of making assumptions. When you speak from your truth, not your triggers. Communication isn't just a skill, it's a discipline. It's something you have to choose every single day. You have to choose clarity over comfort. You have to choose listening when your ego wants to scream. You have to choose softening when you'd rather shut down. And if both people aren't willing to do that work, the relationship begins to rot from the inside, slowly, quietly, until one day you're standing next to someone you can't even talk to anymore. But when communication is strong, everything changes. Arguments become opportunities, disagreements become deeper understanding, and love becomes a place where both people feel seen, heard, and valued. Relationship, that's what we're all after, right? Not just to be loved, but to be understood. That doesn't come from magic. It comes from learning how to speak your heart in a way that invites someone in, instead of pushing them away. Another reason so many people fail in love is because they chase chemistry instead of compatibility. We've been hypnotized by the idea that if the spark is strong enough, if the butterflies are intense enough, if the passion is wild enough, then it must be love. But let me tell you something hard and honest. Chemistry can lie. It can pull you into people who feel familiar, not because they're right for you, but because they trigger old wounds you haven't healed yet. It can trap you in cycles of attraction that feel electric but lead absolutely nowhere. Chemistry is exciting, no doubt. Relationship, it makes your heart race, your skin tingle, your world light up. But the truth is, anyone can ignite a fire. That doesn't mean they know how to keep you warm when life gets cold. Compatibility is what keeps the fire burning after the initial flames die down. It's not about how good you feel on date 1, it's about how strong you stand together on year 5. And most people don't wait long enough to find that out. They get addicted to the rush, the thrill, the fantasy. They mistake emotional chaos for intensity. But that kind of love, it burns fast and burns out faster. Compatibility isn't sexy in the beginning, but it's what makes love last. It's shared values, it's emotional maturity. It's how you handle stress together, how you communicate under pressure, how you align when things get real. It's being able to grow in the same direction, not just fall into the same bed. Passion is powerful, but without alignment it becomes a roller coaster, fun, fast, but ultimately exhausting and unstable. The problem is that when people prioritize chemistry, they often overlook red flags. They excuse toxic behavior because the attraction is strong. They mistake volatility for romance. They say, "Shit, but I can't stop thinking about them," and confuse obsession with love. Let me be clear, real love is not chaos, it's not anxiety, it's not a constant guessing game. It's clarity. It's calm. It's knowing that someone sees you, respects you, and wants to walk beside you, not just possess you. And look, chemistry is still important. We're human. We want to feel desire, to feel pulled toward someone. But that can't be the whole foundation if there's no compatibility, if your goals clash, if your communication styles destroy each other, if your emotional needs are constantly misunderstood, then no amount of passion will save it. At some point, the rush fades, the dopamine wears off, and all you're left with is the reality of who this person is and how they live. If that version of them can't stand beside the real version of you, then you're not building love, you're just chasing a high. People fail in love because they want fire without fuel, they want sparks without substance. But real love, soul deep, is lasting love, isn't always flashy, it's steady, it's honest, it's safe in the best way, not boring, safe. And if that sounds less exciting to you, it's because you've been conditioned to associate drama with depth. But the real depth comes from knowing someone has your back, not just your body. From knowing you can disagree without disrespect. From knowing that the connection goes beyond the physical and reaches into purpose, direction, and shared vision. If you want something that lasts, stop chasing chemistry alone, start asking the deeper questions. Start valuing how someone treats you over how they make you feel in the moment. Because when chemistry fades, and it will, it's compatibility that holds everything together. One of the most common and heartbreaking reasons people fail in love is because they skip the most important part of the entire equation. Themselves. They go looking for someone to fill the gaps in their soul, to rescue them from loneliness, to validate their worth, or to distract them from their pain. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. If you haven't done the work on yourself, no relationship is going to work for you. Not for long. You might attract someone, you might even fall in love. But eventually, all the parts of yourself you've ignored, denied, or buried, they will show up, and when they do, they won't quietly whisper. They'll sabotage everything. People think love will save them. That if they just find the right person, everything broken inside them will magically heal. But love isn't a bandage, it's a mirror, and it will reflect everything you still haven't dealt with. Your fears, your insecurities, your trust issues, your unhealed trauma. If you haven't faced those things on your own, they'll show up in your relationship. You'll project your past onto your partner. You'll expect them to fix you, to complete you, to carry you through the pain you haven't faced. And when they can't or won't, you'll blame them. But it was never their job to fix what only you can heal. You've got to do the self-work. You've got to confront your patterns, understand your triggers, get clear on your values. You need to know who you are without someone else trying to define you. Because until you do, love won't feel like love. It'll feel like a dependency, a need, a clutching. And that kind of energy doesn't build healthy relationships. It slowly suffocates them. You'll either lose yourself in the relationship or you'll try to control your partner to avoid facing your own inner chaos. Self-work isn't glamorous. It's not Instagram worthy. It's you, alone, staring your pain in the face and deciding that your healing matters more than your comfort. It's taking responsibility for your life instead of blaming your ex, your parents, or your circumstances. It's learning how to be whole before you try to join your life with someone else's. Because when two incomplete people come together, the relationship becomes a battlefield of unmet needs. But when two whole people meet, love becomes a place of overflow, not desperation. This isn't about perfection. It's about ownership. About being honest enough to say, these are my wounds, these are my flaws, but I'm working on them. That's attractive. That's what real love is built on. Because when you've done the self-work, you don't need someone to complete you. You choose someone to complement you. And that changes everything. You don't settle out of fear. You don't cling out of lack. You love freely, fully, because you already know who you are. And that kind of love, that's the kind that lasts. So why do most people fail in love? It's not because love is broken. It's not because we're not meant for it, it's because we walk into it unprepared. We expect fantasy instead of reality. We lack the emotional tools to navigate conflict. We're terrified of being seen, so we build walls instead of bridges. We chase the thrill of chemistry and ignore the importance of true compatibility. We forget that communication is the foundation, not just a feature. And above all, we look outward for something we haven't even built within ourselves. But here's the truth: love isn't luck. It's not magic. It's not something you stumble into and it just works. Real love is forged in honesty, vulnerability, accountability, and growth. It requires you to strip down the layers of ego, face your patterns, and show up as your full, imperfect, evolving self. It takes work on you and for them. And when two people are willing to do that work, when they bring clarity, compassion, and commitment to the table, that's when love stops being a game and becomes a masterpiece. So don't settle for the crash and burn. Don't keep repeating the same painful cycle. Break it. Start with yourself. Learn. Heal. Grow. Because when you become the kind of person who knows how to love deeply, truthfully, and courageously, you won't fail in love. You'll redefine it.